This is TWiT.
We are taking a step into augmented reality in a time of us being at home with Devindra Hardawar of Engadget. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, happy to be here. Great to talk with you as always.
Now, are you coming to us from VR right now, or is this a real sort of situation we're looking at?
I mean, if you want to get deep about it, we could very well be in a simulation. We don't know. I was actually going to put on a headset and join this call, but no, I'm talking to you face to face as much as I can.
So for folks who don't know what in the world Spatial IO is, what Spatial is, let's start there. Spatial has gone free, but what is Spatial?
So Spatial is this company. They've basically developed virtual meeting software. We covered them 2 years ago when they launched, and they were really aiming at businesses. They were using HoloLens and supporting devices like Magic Leaps to let businesses have these remote meetings, manipulate 3D objects, talk about products that they're all developing. We're hearing from them that they have a bunch of customers within the Fortune 100 and even some top 10 companies. But the big news is that they're bringing all this tech to everybody. They're adding a web version, kind of a way for you to view these VR meetings through the web. And also they're going to be launching iPhone and Android apps too. And all of it's free for now. So they're kind of taking the Zoom approach, opening up this platform in a time when a lot of people may want to use it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I there are a lot of different virtual meeting space platforms, or not, I guess not a whole lot, but there's several different virtual meeting space platforms out there. And so I had not heard of this one, and I assume that's just because it was a commercial focused product.
I think so. And, kind of the ones we've heard about too are like the pushes from Facebook. Facebook has had their spaces and things like that. And I don't think any of those really went anywhere. We're kind of still waiting for VR communication and collaboration to really take off. But I think the idea that this company, which is focused on business customers up until now, kind of has a good leg in the game just because they've proven their product works. They have people who are really using it. And now by throwing it out there, and I tested it a bit, it seems really compelling. Maybe I'm just a little crazy now because I haven't left home in weeks, but it is nice to be in a virtual space with somebody and kind of talk with them. There's a video clip up there too on our site that you could kind of get a sense of what our interaction was like. And it was also cool to see that, I could use a web browser as a window into this VR world too. So they're kind of bringing more people in. And that's a big thing. VR has been kind of restrictive up until now. Like if you didn't have a headset, you couldn't really use any of these services. This is actually a really smart way to bring more people in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, what are the kinds of things that you can do in this virtual collaboration space? I mean, is it tailored to work entirely, or is there fun that can be had? I mean, I'm seeing some interesting things happening in here. There's a horse
right now. I really do think they're focused on work. There's no entertainment or game stuff that you could do. The big changes they've made now is onboarding. So they're teaching people how to use this platform. You kind of have a menu around your waist when you look down from VR, which can let you bring in objects or draw on the screen or draw on objects, manipulate things. So it's really all about bringing in objects, bringing in screens. You can have a giant screen that everyone's looking at too, and just focusing on these things and collaborating on them. One really cool thing we were able to do, I was standing in kind of a life-size version of a cell phone store, and the CEO and the chief product officer from Spatial were just walking around and showing me oh, you could maybe move the, what you want the phone display to look like, what you want the signs to look like, walk around that as if it was a real world space, which could be really useful for companies as they're designing stores. And then they were able to shrink that down completely. And we looked at it from above, like towering virtual reality gods. And that just kind of showed the power of this whole thing. You could go from many different ways of interfacing with a single object or even something like a room.
That's fascinating. Now, okay, so as we've mentioned, in the last couple of minutes, right now with everyone working from home, suddenly video conferencing is like the technology that everybody's racing to do. Everybody, and anybody like Google opened up Google Meet, which was prior, a paid for product. Now they're like, oh, wait a minute, we have the ability to capitalize off the fact that people need these services now. Maybe we can become the major player here. Do you envision?
Maybe they shouldn't have killed Hangouts when they did. Well, like that was part of it.
All right, fair enough. They're always trying to undo their previous mistakes. That's just the Google way. But do you think that now the time is right for a VR focused solution like this? In a moment where we can't meet face to face, this is a good alternative to give us what maybe we get us closer to what we were used to. At the same time, it's a heavy lift, right? Like you got to be okay with the fact that you're strapping a VR goggle on your face in order to attend a meeting. That might be just too much for people. Is now the right time for this?
I feel like it's a good time to experiment with it, just because in the past, like when you could just go to an office or something or meet somebody face to face, I think most people would prefer doing that. But right now we have this pressure to kind of be home and stay isolated to, not catch a virus that's everywhere. So I think with this pressure on us, there's definitely more of a reason to explore VR. Especially something like the Oculus Quest, which is not that expensive. It's $400, but self-contained. It doesn't need a PC. It's completely wireless. It's easier for companies to deploy things like this. Maybe we'll see more adopting these meeting rooms. I think the time certainly is now. And hey, Half-Life Alyx just came out, and that was like the killer game we've been waiting for in VR. So if not now, I'm not sure when is going to be a great time for VR, because it does feel like you're somewhere else. I did feel like I was in another space. I wasn't just here in my home office where I've been stuck for a while. And it felt like I was being transported somewhere else. So there's value to that, certainly, when we're trapped and even when we're not. Like, if I want to meet with somebody on the other side of the world, maybe I want something more than a video chat, because to me, it's always a little passive. It's not as interactive, and it doesn't feel as like I'm standing next to somebody as you would in VR.
Yeah. Now, one of the selling points, benefits of using Zoom, I guess, is the simplicity. I can send a link to a person and you don't have to download an app or anything like that if they don't want to.
Just goes.
Yeah, exactly. Does Spatial, you mentioned that you can join via the browser. How much work was involved in joining that way? I know that there's more work involved if you're doing the headset, but is it easy to join Spatial, just as easy as Zoom?
Yeah, so they sent me a link and I clicked in my browser and boom, I was in. So it was very simple, like Zoom. And what's really interesting too is that I'm seeing like a rendered view of the virtual world. It's actually being rendered on my computer or my browser. They're actually doing that in the cloud, similar to the way that game streaming works. So that means they can bring this sort of 3D world down to machines like Chromebooks or things that are kind of underpowered. That's kind of a smart decision too. So getting in there was super easy. I was able to use my webcam. I appeared like, what's that? The guy from Power Rangers, Zordon. I was just like Zordon up there while they're in the room, and you can look up and see the person on the webcam, and all you can do is peer down, but you can still be a part of everything that's happening.
This is fascinating. Now, other than Spatial and Facebook, I mean, do we think that I wonder, do you think VR is still looking for its sort of killer app or its killer experience? Have we not found that yet? Or is this kind of thing, the virtual meeting space, the answer to getting more people into VR?
I think it's going to be one of many things. We're still waiting for those great experiences. I think Google Earth on its own is an amazing thing to experience in VR. The problem is you have to experience it. I can't just, it's like me describing a great work of art or something. There's a difference between hearing about it and experiencing it for yourself. And VR is such a very different thing. If you've never put on a headset, you don't know what it's like to completely block out the world and see a totally different reality or totally different environment. So I think VR still has a lot of things to work through. They need more apps for sure. But we want to see more devices like the Quest, which are not that expensive. They can certainly get cheaper, but that are easy to use. The cool thing about the Quest is I could just put it on. I could sit here and just start doing stuff in VR. I don't have to set up sensors. I don't have to create any maps around my room. If I want to walk around, I may have to do that. So even that's not super convenient. It's really convenience. And I think that's the key with tech. Until this stuff is easy, Zoom is easy. That's why a ton of people are just using it now. We got to fix that convenience factor for VR, and maybe then it'll go somewhere.
Yeah, Zoom is easy. Literally open up your laptop and go. VR is still like, even not having the cameras in the room and all that sort of stuff with an Oculus, you still have to charge it. Yeah, you had to put it on. I mean, it is a big cumbersome thing that you're attaching to your face. However, we have the kind of like the news leaks, rumors, whatever about the upcoming revision to the Oculus Quest that maybe it might have some sort of AR hooks in it as well. Could that be the answer? I mean, the timeless question, or at least the last 5 years with AR and VR, is which one's going to win? Which I'm not necessarily certain that one has to win over the other, but maybe they're
both very
to the next level.
Different things.
Do you think
maybe something like
could
that
happen?
I haven't seen that leak, to be honest, but we have looked at devices like Nreals, and that's something we saw at CES, I think a year or two ago, and those basically look like shades. They're shades that project augmented reality objects in front of you, similar to Magic Leap. So I do think we're going to get to a point where something like that is easy. You slip it on. Maybe you still have to charge it for sure, but it's going to be easier to use, and I'm waiting for that magical device that is both AR, transparent when I need it, and also can block out the world and be VR too. It's not about one or the other kind of winning. It's more about different ways of portraying virtual worlds.
Got it. Yeah, and I should clarify. The AR headset is actually a different Oculus headset. So they're working on an Oculus Quest revision. Yep. They're also working on supposedly an AR headset that's due in 2023.
I imagine everybody
still a ways away.
Yeah, there's the rumor. Yeah. There's the rumor Apple is as well. So yeah, we're going to see some cool stuff in the next few years for sure.